Hello again, everybody. Let me see if Instagram will let me go live. Perfection. Let me make sure that, yep, I'm live on Rumble. So we are live everywhere once again. So, hello on Instagram. Hello on X. Hello on Rumble. And hello on YouTube. So happy to be here. So happy to see everybody. All right, we are going to let me go over here so I can see myself on my own stream would be nice. Um yeah, guys. Um I don't even know what to tell you anymore. We are we're gonna get back into this whole thing again with Joni, Jonathan, Suzy, everybody. And we're gonna pick back up. We're also going to be watching some of Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson's interview with Denise Boggs. Then we're going to be watching and commenting on Jonathan and Suzy Lamb's interview with Marcus Rogers, another YouTuber. So we're going to let people, let the YouTube streets and all the other streets know that we're here. And we're going to get started here just in a second. So let's watch the intro and then we'll be right here. Hello again. I'm so excited to be back here, guys. So excited to be back. Hello, Suzy again. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, my dear, for being back. We will start with the copyright disclaimer. Okay, so the copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1978. Allowance is made for fair use for purpose such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. So we are doing probably at the very least criticism and comment, but we're going to do some teaching and yeah, we're going to talk about some things. When and hey, Christina, how are you? So I want to welcome everybody on all platforms. Let me go and see here if I can. Why does this always? All right. Well, I'm back on live. Okay. Welcome over there finally on Instagram. I don't know why it does that to me. Um, and hello on X. So listen, we left off a little bit earlier today. If you weren't with us earlier today for part one of this live stream, you'll want to, when we're done here tonight, go back. I did actually create a playlist that is specifically for the Daystar situation and all the videos, because I have a feeling we're going to be talking about this for quite a while, because in the interim in between the last time I saw you guys, about I don't know, a couple 3 hours ago, maybe 4 hours ago, and now there's been another Roy's report drop, and so I'm watching the Roy's report drop, and I'm finding it very interesting that as a collective, as a Christian, a church collective, where that the church is finally now talking about some things that has bothered me for a long time, not the least of which is this whole submission, covering, submit to authority, hierarchy, all of that. That I did not know the origins thereof, because I grew up in non-denominational Christian church. I did not grow up in Baptist church. I did not grow up in Church of God in Christ. I didn't grow up in the quote unquote black church. And we'll talk about that a little bit more another time. So I grew up non-denominational. And then when I became a minister, it was in the non-denominational church. So all I've ever known is the submit to authority, the titles, Your pastor, your leader is your covering. You don't question them. I've always felt that that was wrong, right? I've always felt that that was wrong on a basic level, because when we go into this as on the Roy's report, and Julie Roy's, I think it is, um, what this doctrine of submission, this doctrine of covering, there's really no biblical stance on it. There's no biblical basis really for it, and there's no biblical basis for us to not call out evil doing amongst the brethren and the sisterin, even if they are the leaders. There is no basis for that. And at some point here during these conversations, we will begin to even discuss that even further, because we're going to get out of this realm specifically, and then we're going to start to talk about some what is honestly biblical truth and what has been biblical myth. Okay, biblical truth versus biblical myth. Let my friend know I'm live. Oops. Let me just let my buddy know. Okay. I know that it's gonna take a minute to get out into the interwebs that we're live. Continue to like this, guys. Continue to like it. Continue to like it, and we will get there, and we'll start. I want to see some of the same numbers we had earlier today. Now, earlier today, when we left off, okay, and Christina, it's so good to see you again as well, dear. And I know, Christina, you've been involved in some of this church hurt and stuff like that as well. So, wow, right? It's not for the faint of heart. All right, it's definitely not for the faint of heart. Let me create a post, and then we can let people know that we are live and loud, live, and in charge. I want to do this here. When we last left off, we were just looking at Lori Lynn's Lori Lynn Thompson something. She's got a heck of a name. And we'll say live right now. Live right now for part 2. And then let's choose this video, shall we? We left off on her interview, and I want to kind of go in depth because Denise Boggs is a very significant person. Hey fam, hey Jace, how you doing? Hello fam. She's a very significant figure in this entire sordid tale. Okay, I want to show you guys one thing though first. Liked videos. There is a video we're going to be talking about tomorrow, and that is this video here. I'm going to copy it and put it in the chat. This is going to be from Julie Roy's channel, ROYS. We're going to be talking about this one right tomorrow. Yes, Christina, we haven't experienced some interesting things, haven't we? Here's this link. I put it in YouTube. Let me see if I can drop it everywhere. Let me see if I can get here. Where? I was told I was live. Cheese and rice. Can I please just see the rumble? Where's my own channel? My God, today. Anyway, I'm trying to get it over here on Rumble, but it's not really helping me. It's not being helpful at all. I can grab it from YouTube. Hang on, gang. Control C. I'll drop it here on X. and then we'll drop it on Insta. So I want to welcome everybody that's everywhere. We're going to talk about that Julie Roy's video tomorrow, because that's all about the doctrine of submission. And let me tell you, that in and of itself is insidious. That in and of itself is insidious. Okay. When we last left off, we were chit chatting about this interview right here with that Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson did on YouTube. I put the link in the description box below. She did this interview, and this interview is with Denise Boggs. Now, when we played the audio of a very frightened Susie as on her son Isaiah's birthday, this is subsequent to the firing, subsequent to all of this stuff. Jonathan had asked his mother, Joni, not to come around, like take a step back, no contact with us, no contact with the kids. Definitely not while you're trying to destroy us. Which in essence is what she's trying to do. She's trying to destroy them because not only did they have the audacity to not remain in this blind, brainwashed submission, but they did not also continue to cover up the BS that is going on in Daystar, nor the BS that has happened as far as the cover up of what has allegedly happened to their daughter when she was 5 years old. Okay. I'm going to put this down here at the bottom. Once again, everything stated by me is my opinion. By my guests is their opinion, and any criminal or scandalous acts are alleged. So there has been no one that has been indicted. No one has been charged. No one has been arrested. And we're going to talk about that investigation. I have my own opinion about some things that they're doing with their child. I don't have any, whatever. I'm just going to speak as a grandmother, speak as a minister, as a prophetess, as a spiritual life coach, and as a woman of a certain age. I think that they're not pursuing some things with their daughter, and they need to pursue them. Okay. Now, here, Laura Lynn has just gotten done. I've got a couple of things that I want to go to. She's just gotten done playing and I played this at the end of the last part, or the first segment, part one of this. So we're gonna pick this up now. I need to go to about 10, and we're gonna pick this up about 10 minutes and 56 seconds after she has introduced Denise Boggs. You don't really need to hear all of the stuff that we're about to hear. But now we're going to see how Denise got to know the family and what happened with that. So here we go.
Family's income to like such an extreme level to where we're like, in debt, having to like figure so much stuff out, but still
blowing up. Everybody's beginning to weigh in. I have, I can see now that spiritual leaders, with large followings are now actually beginning to speak. And it's looking like there's a concern that some things at Daystar were not handled well, and that there's even more sort of coming out. So I just want to thank you that we had a great conversation, sort of a pre-conversation yesterday, just to.
Yes, that is correct.
Yes. And when would you say, so could you give me a chronological order, meeting the family, why you met the family, and just walk us chronologically through your relationship with them?
Yes, of course. In 2018, I was invited to come on Ministry Now, and just to talk about our ministry, Living Waters Ministry. And at that point in time, we had ministered to some high-profile pastors and leaders, and and help them through just painful situations. And Marcus and Joni had heard about what the work we did, so they wanted to hear about it. They invited us to come on. So I came onto the program and shared about healing the heart and what that takes. That you have to get into the deep. You have to take a deep dive to really heal down in the root where the root issues are. And so Marcus loved it. And from the very beginning, he said, "Will you help our family?" I said, "Absolutely, Marcus. I'll be glad to." And so after that,
Was if I could just ask, like,
So did you hear that? So in 2019, Marcus and Joni had heard about her ministries. She's actually based right here in North Carolina. I may try to reach out to her at some point and just have a discussion, because I think it would be a very interesting discussion to talk about this heart healing from a Christian perspective as well as a spiritual perspective. Now, and I love the fact that she's right here. So I'm just going to reach out and see where she at and what she's doing. What I want you to recognize is she had already been working with high profile ministers, high profile people, and helping them heal their trauma or heal whatever's going on, help their families. Marcus and Joni asked her to be on the show. Okay. That's how we got to where we're at. I don't know. Andrea, I don't know if she'll come on. You know, I'm certainly not as big as a Laura Lynn Thompson. But you never know, right? Closed mouth don't get fed. So here you go. All right, here we go.
were you there at all? Did you ever counsel with Marcus and Joni regarding the previous difficulties, Marcus being unfaithful to Joni and the healing process? Was that at all entangled, or was it kind of this new phase, help us with basically the family and the children?
Basically, the family and the children, yes. When I came on, they had already resolved things, and so I wasn't asked to speak into that situation, but to just help the children as they're walking through and working through it. And then just working with just, everyone has pain that gets buried. They can't, you can't heal on camera. You have to, and so the family, it being
That's deep right there. I want you to catch it. You can't heal on camera.
a public situation. There needed to be more healing. So yes.
So tell me.
All right, I'm gonna stop. I promise you, I'm gonna stop stopping, but I have to stop every once in a while. I want y'all to catch something, because a couple days ago, when I really kind of did a deep dive into this, the first deep dive, and I was talking about how I did not know that Marcus. Let me bring this up a little bit. I'm gonna need somebody to be my producer. I did not know that Marcus Lamb had multiple affairs on Joni, like that there was a lot of years of infidelity. And I mentioned a few nights ago how it appeared to me like, if I didn't know that, I'm sure other people knew it, because this didn't seem like it was an unknown thing amongst some of y'all church folk. However, Joni stayed with him. It appears to me that the pathology, as Mother Iyana would say, in this family structure is that we don't really deal with the shit. It's late tonight now, y'all. It's late tonight. So I hope y'all children are in bed by now. And please excuse my mouth. Okay? If you have sensitive ears, it's okay. You're gonna be all right. So a couple might slip. It's late. It's 9 something at night. I'm tired. It's gonna slip. So she's been used to covering up, right? Wrongdoing. I'm gonna propose to you that if your Daystar, the business Daystar, according to the IRS, the church, so you're a church as well as a business, you're a big church, you're $1 billion church, and you cannot stay faithful to your wife. I venture to say that you're not going to be able to stay faithful to the sheep. I venture to say you're not going to be completely 5,000% above board when it comes to dealing with things at all, period. And I feel like that Joni then at that point, just having spoken to other women who have stayed through infidelity, multiple infidelities, and they were married to high powered men, they were power couples, whatever the case may be. They put up with it and put up with it and put up with it because A, they don't want to miss out on that money. They don't want the shame of being divorced. For whatever reason, the shame of your husband slanging it out all over God's creation, there's no shame in that. But you going to deal with the shame. You can't deal with the shame of divorce. Whatever. And a lot of times they'll stay for the kids. I'm not saying that that's right, wrong, or indifferent, but children know when things ain't right. Now, she's used to covering up. She's used to, we just sweep it under the rug and the family just keeps on going, no matter what her pain or her issue is. I'm going to also say, this is an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to also just throw out here as a hypothesis that maybe that's why it was so easy for her to get married less than about a year or so, year and a half, after her husband went on to be with Jesus. Because biblically speaking, the only grounds for divorce, if you're going to go straight, just like, straight, no chaser, just straight down the line, Bible, the only reason you can divorce is adultery. Well, her husband had committed adultery many, 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 many times, and embarrassed the dog mess out that woman many times. So if you've been used to covering it up and you just kind of let it go and the family just acts like none of this ever freaking happened, then what happens then, y'all? So now she's probably, from what we hear now, what I hear and I read and whatever, that the word on the curb is she really didn't feel like they was married anyway. And I'm just going to venture to say they probably didn't have a very good relationship, but marital relationship. I'm just guessing but I wouldn't be able to have no good marital relationship if I know you've been slanging it all over God's creation. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm not. So she already felt divorced for all intents and purposes. So it was nothing for her to go on and get married to Doug Weiss. However, according to those folks over there, Doug Weiss didn't have no reason to get married. I'm not saying Doug Weiss did or didn't. From what I hear, Lisa Weiss, his wife, was begging him to stay. So that doesn't sound like a wife that's abandoned anybody. That sounds to me like you got divorced 2 months after this man died. So you two been chit-chatting. I'm not crazy. You two been chit-chatting. You two been thinking about it. You two been exchanging glances. You two been exchanging energy. I'll never know the truth. We'll never know the truth. But that's just, I ain't stupid. Somebody don't just up and get divorced 2 months after a man died and then go after his wife. And they ain't had nothing else beforehand. Now, come on now. I might have been born at night, but it certainly wasn't last night. Absolutely, the rug covers it all, right? And so we don't talk about the men, especially the men and women of God that are the highest. Hey, Shalay, how you doing, sweetie? I believe it's way worse for the kids as well. Shame culture around divorce is perpetuated more than the shame. It surely is, unless you're a woman. And then if you're a woman that cheats, all of a sudden we the worst things. We are Jezebel and everything else. I couldn't stay neither. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna let this play for a little bit, okay, gang? I just don't want to get a strike, but we're gonna let this play. We're now in the throes of Denise.
About this, one of the things that the Canadian board member mentioned to me is that he said Jonathan has been rebellious for years. And is that something that you observed? Was Jonathan's rebellion in previous years?
No, not at all. Not at all. Ever since I met them in 2018, he was always very, very humble, kind, loving to his family. And actually, I did not have to work with him through issues with family members. So because he had resolved things in his own heart. And so, no, he wasn't rebellious at all.
Okay, so this is basically you working closely with the family. The Canadian board member of Daystar here in Canada seems to want to allude to the fact that Jonathan's just been a problem for years, and you are saying categorically that is not at all what you personally witnessed.
No. And I did not. Again, being close to the family, sitting in the family room with Marcus and Joni, there was never anything said about trying to help Jonathan, because there was never any.
I'm very grateful for you, letting us know about this, because from the outsider's perspective, not knowing Jonathan and Suzy, only seeing their persona on camera, and also because I'm sure that you've heard the entire recording with Jimmy Evans and Joni. I'm sure that you have poured over that just a little bit. The positioning of Jonathan in such a humble manner, being what I would consider being, lambasted and very much, people would call this spiritual abuse. I would call it that. But his position was just so humble and gentle, and actually heartbreaking for me to hear people and a mother speaking to her son that way. So when I'm hearing these other people, in executive or board positions trying to make it look like Jonathan's this big problem, that was not coming across. So I thank you for confirming that. Now, we don't need to know the family problems, but obviously in Marcus' letter where he does mention you, I think it's August 21st. And I think that even JT, you might have those letters. We did them the other day. I think they were like number 1 or something. But in those letters, he was saying the 4 years, our family, we are breaking apart. It's breaking my heart. Something's wrong. And I was Suzy Lamb and the girls then, is that where the problem was? And I want you, first of all, to be able to say, I can't talk about that, or, that was, you just don't feel that it's even relevant, but there seemed to be some kind of family issue going on that Marcus was alluding to.
Yes. Well, and this particular letter, yes, I was sent the letter myself as well, so I know about the letter. This was regarding what happened at the beach, and that has also been reported by Julie Roy. And so it was upsetting to Marcus, and he felt like God said he was to write this letter. So this was not referring to anything at that point in time. The main thing it was pointing to was what was happening with Jonathan and Suzy and Pete, and what had happened there.
Yes, ma'am. So there was a part, though, where he seems to indicate that, well, first of all, he says, I can be a watchman. And I love that, because this term watchman has been, spoken of by Jimmy Evans as if that is not a term that should be used since the New Testament. But he does indicate in this letter, if you'll recall, that there's been the very first line, I have been so disturbed over the fractures in our family over the last 4 years. Can you shed?
Okay. This letter was written, and you can go to Laura. What is this woman's name? It's in the description. Laura Lynn something Thompson. And this particular video is linked in the description box. She'll have another one as to, so she's got a few on the Daystar situation. She was the first bigger name on this channel to come out and say, I'm out. I'm not doing this with y'all. So back in 2021, you recall right around this time, this is around the time when this incident happened with Pete, the family member that was holding a baby reportedly. That's evidently close enough family member to be staying in the Miramar Airbnb for a family weekend or family vacation. So y'all figured out who Pete is. We're going to find out who Pete is. I'm just waiting for Pete to get clinked. Anyway, but he's saying in August of 2021, there's been issues over the last 4 years. Now, the baby was only 5 at this point. So I'm trying to figure out what the heck else is happening. And now we have him also accusing people of being a private eye, police detective, a prosecutor, a judge, and jury, and executioner. Listen, you mess with my child, I'm going to be all that and more.
Any light on this 4 years? So that would take us back to, 2017.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I can't really speak on that at this point.
Okay. So, so you kind of came in as this trusted friend, Joni and Marcus. They gave their children. So would the kids call you independently?
Oh, yes. They all had my cell number, and they would call me, and I gave them permission to call me. And of course, Marcus was encouraging it and to work through things. So, yes.
Okay. And so one of the things that you have extreme knowledge of is this day. Something terrible happened at the beach house. It was very upsetting to Jonathan and Suzy. So if you're able to tell us your understanding of events that day and how it went down.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Yes, I received a call, and then I received calls from numerous members of the family, and each one was equally as upset. And so what had happened, that I was told, now of course I'm not at the beach, but I'm told that Susie told her daughter to go upstairs and get her bathing suit on to go to the beach. And so the little girl, 5 years old, starts running up the stairs, all excited. And then Susie notices that someone, their facial expression, which we're referring to Pete, and he began moving up the stairs as well, swiftly upstairs. So she grabbed Jonathan, who's the father, and said, please go check on our daughter. Go check on our daughter. And so he went running up. And then when he got to their daughter's bedroom, Pete was standing there and the little girl was naked in the bedroom. So that was disturbing to everyone. And as any good father would do, Jonathan Lamb said, what are you doing here? What are you doing in my little girl's room? She's naked. What are you doing? So, something of that nature. And so I'm sure he expressed emotion. And from what different family members called to tell me was that at that point in time, it pulled the whole family into it. So everybody's wondering what's going on. So, yeah.
So in that day when that's happening, where were you and what happened in your life at that moment?
Okay, hang on here. So notice that perfectly aligns with what Susie has said, with what Jonathan has said. That story perfectly aligns. The only person that doesn't align with the story is Joni. She's the only one that her story is a little different. I just want that out here. This woman was called in to help repair the breach subsequent to Pete. And y'all gonna hear some more from Joni. You know what I'm saying? Y'all gonna hear some more from Joni here in just a second. All right, hold on.
I was in North Carolina at our retreat center. And so I made myself available all day to receive the calls. And I did. I received the calls.
Who was the first one to call you? Who was the first?
The first one to call me actually was the sister. And the sister, if it's okay
to say.
Is that
Rachel or Rebecca? Sure. Yeah. Everyone's, I think, yep. Everyone knows the family names.
So, chat, can you help me out? Rebecca is not the one married to JB, right? Rebecca's husband is JW. Can y'all confirm that for me in the chat? Because if I go back to the Royce report, if I remember correctly, from the Royce report, what was stated was there was this big brouhaha that happened with Joni and Marcus, Jonathan and Suzy. They had them hemmed up in their bedroom, yelling and screaming at them and telling them they need to repent and they need to apologize. They need to make it better with Pete and his wife. Blah, blah, blah. And Rebecca, I think it was, Rebecca is JW. Okay, great. So Rebecca and JW then barged into the room because they was like, well, you're not going to do this to them. Correct? All right. I just had to get it all straight. There's too many J's and too many just all these cheerings. Okay, here we go. YouTube, don't play with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rebecca was very concerned about it, and so she called me. And and then as a few calls later, actually Pete and his wife called, and it was quite upsetting to Pete that Jonathan had raised his voice, and it was upsetting at that time. Like, what I do? And so why is everyone blaming me? So at that point, it pulled everyone like, oh, Pete's upset now. Oh, we've hurt Pete, and yet the innocent one is this little girl, So that's when it really brought, I guess, all the family to dealing with it, because Jonathan, yes, he was upset, and he had he's a father. I mean, I have 3.
No, Joni's new husband, Doug Weiss, is not in this. Oh, that's a good question, Suzy. Does anybody know if Jonathan Weiss and Doug Weiss are relations? I'm guessing not, but if anybody knows, if you could confirm that, that'd be great.
Children myself and 11 grandchildren, and any parent that sees someone other than the other parent in the same room with their child who doesn't have any clothes on, of course that would be upsetting.
100%.
But it began to be shifted towards why is Jonathan, upset about it? Well,
what do you mean?
So-
Who was shifting? Who would you say was shifting? Who, why is Jonathan, or asking that question? Why is Jonathan upset?
Well, it was at that point in time. It was, of course, Pete is saying, why is Jonathan upset with me? And I said, well, and I said, well, why were you in this position? Why were you there? What's going, So, but his wife was very upset about it, and of course, like I said, Rebecca. And then I did get a call from Susie saying what happened. She told me exactly then what happened. And so,
and what did Susie tell you? I know that there's clearance from Susie and Jonathan for you to speak freely. They have nothing to hide. They have said to you, you just, tell your truth and your experience as you saw it. So what was Susie saying?
Well, what Susie was saying, she said, Miss Denise, I saw it on his face, on Pete's face. I saw it on his face. I mean, she just kept talking about, she said, why would this happen? And so she said, and Jonathan didn't do anything wrong. Why are they upset with Jonathan? So she's having to process her daughter. She's having to process why the family's upset because Pete is, because anybody's questioning Pete. So yeah, it got really involved with a lot of emotion, and so I know what happened after that, and yes. I was told that Marcus did spend some time talking with Jonathan to get him calmed down, and talking with Pete, and he felt, and then Jonathan said, Marcus, I got the call then that Marcus had said, I don't think he did anything wrong. So my suggestion at that point, well, why doesn't Pete and his wife just come onto our retreat center? We'll spend some time with them, and because this thing has got to be resolved, because it was upsetting the whole family. It was upsetting the whole beach trip.
So it's my understanding that the family ends up, having a prayer circle in Marcus and Joni's room to try to deal with this. I don't know if that took several hours or if it was kind of an immediate action.
It was over a period of time, a couple hours, and trying to resolve it. I mean, this would be a problem for any family, and the Lamb family is not exempt of family problems. And so this was a family issue, and they gathered as a family, and that's when Marcus felt to tell the family he felt like that everything was okay.
Everything was okay. And did you have any chats with Marcus or Joni that day, or was it mainly the kids?
That day, it was mainly the kids. Yes.
All right. Denise, what we heard then subsequently was that there was an investigation that was going to take place. And what can you tell me about the chronological order of how that transpired?
Well, first of all, I have been referred to as the one leading the internal investigation, and I was referred to that by Julie Roy. But I need to say that I was never hired. I was never asked by Marcus or Joni to lead an investigation here in any way. I was not, because I am not a licensed professional counselor. I was a friend of the family, as you can tell, all the family's calling. So it was not a professional investigation. Okay. It was simply a lot of prayer. They did pray together, and then I did suggest, some steps afterwards, because, one thing that it says in Isaiah 32, it says, and it's the work of righteousness that'll bring forth peace. You've got to work through these things. You got to get to where the deep pain is to work through it. And in Jeremiah 6:13 and 14, he says that from the prophet to the priest, they deal falsely with my people when they just say, okay, peace, we're fine. When there is no peace, then that's falsely. So
okay, can y'all, I let a lot of that play, so I really have to make sure I don't get copyright struck. So let's analyze what we've already heard. So now this incident has happened. Okay, we're back to the beach house. And I'm going to tell you guys something. I'm sticking with, and I think the majority of us that are doing the commentary on YouTube, on Instagram, wherever, on TikTok. I don't know if it's happening on TikTok, but I assume so. I got to get over there and see what's going on the TikTok streets. The majority of us are doing this coverage, and we're focusing on the child. But I want you to also pay attention to the fact that this did not blow up until Jonathan and Suzy were just like, we can't go along with the marriage. We can't go along with we can't co-sign on this marriage to this Doug Weiss man. What has blown me is, for the most part, even though, when we start talking about it, there's this focus on the marriage, like that was a bigger deal to her. And to Daystar as a corporation and a reported supposed church, then the health, welfare, and mental and emotional well-being of the granddaughter of this innocent child. That's disgusting. I'm focusing on the child because this, to me, if you're willing to sacrifice your child, like your grandbaby, like this, did you hear what this woman said? Everybody's all upset because Pete's upset. Who the hell is Pete and why do we care? Now, if Pete truly is the other son in law, if Pete really is JB, I'm going to need somebody to explain to me who JB is. Bonnie? Bonnie, I'm going to tell you why we're not coming out with that. I love Bonnie. Thank you, Bonnie. Bonnie's beginning writer's blog. Thank you. Supposedly, reportedly, this is now being investigated by the law. What we're going to hear as soon as I can get through just a little bit more of this, of Denise's interview, because we don't need much more of Denise's interview at this juncture. And then we're going to get into the interview of Jonathan and Suzy on the other YouTube channel, Marcus Brown, I think his name is. The reason why we're not saying the name is because it's now officially back under investigation, to my knowledge, like actual investigation. Also, if we were to say that name and say for sure or start throwing his name out there, we all know in the court of public opinion, and this isn't even cancel culture, this is just, actually, I'm not upset about the culture of, I shouldn't say that. Even an accusation will completely ruin somebody's life. Even an accusation will completely ruin somebody's life irreparably. It'll do irreparable harm to someone's life and their reputation. Now, some of you all may say, well, I don't care. Well, you would care if it was your husband, your brother, your father, your uncle that was being wrongly accused. So we do have to be careful. I think all of us can agree, other than perhaps Joni, that something happened to that little girl. I think all of us can agree, probably except for Joni and Jimmy Evans, that that's the most important piece of this whole thing, is what happened to that little girl and why was there a cover-up? Because the rest of what you're about to hear now, what's been written by Marcus himself shows that there's been a cover-up. Or at the very least, we stopped the investigation and didn't force Pete to fess up. Didn't force Pete to face the music. Didn't force Pete to answer the mother trucking questions. It baffles me that the hill this woman decided to die on, aka Joni, was her and her new eggplant. I don't mean to be crass, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but that's the hill she decided to die on, was her and her new eggplant. She didn't die on the hill of, I got to find out at all costs what happened to my granddaughter. Oh, no. And she was able to manipulate, abuse, brainwash, and beat down into submission Jonathan very specifically, but then by proxy, Suzy. Why? Because Suzy and this whole group here, right, is all into this. The woman got to submit to the husband and yada, yada, skippy. Baby, I'm going to submit to you when you give me something to submit to. No shade, no tea. But I'm gonna submit to you until you're not standing up for your family. At that point, then it's a wrap. We about to go. We going to the mattresses. I don't give a who your mama is, your daddy, your grandmammy. I don't care. I don't care. You could be Prince William of England. I ain't gonna care. You could be the crown prince of wherever, Sweden, wherever. I don't give a damn who you are. If one of your relatives did something to my baby, we going to the mattresses. You and your mama can go to you know where. So in that regard, I'm not down with the we gotta submit BS. But this submission doctrine, which is not biblical, this submission doctrine, which is not biblical, that's been the problem. Yeah, we can't forget the child. It's ridiculous. If it is JB, I feel sorry for his own child. I agree with you. But what's interesting is sometimes people that do this to other people's kids, they don't do it to their own. I have to find some statistics on it. Let's continue to listen to Denise so we can get into, because I have a lot to go through with Jonathan and Suzy.
I'm not going to be a false prophet and say, okay, y'all, you had a prayer. Now there's peace. No, there wasn't peace. And there's still not peace. And there won't be peace in this family until there's deep, deep healing, repentance, forgiveness that takes place. And so, yes, they said there was an internal investigation, but I'm not the investigator.
And so was there someone suggested to do this sort of investigation that had the qualifications of forensic investigation?
There was. I called in when Pete and his wife came to our retreat center. I called in a forensic counselor from here, North Carolina, not from Texas, because they said that they would come here. So they came here to meet with a forensic licensed professional counselor.
Okay. And so what happened with that? Did this person step in and begin interviewing all the family members and try to understand what had transpired?
The forensic counselor was Debbie Lenhart. She met with Pete when he came to our retreat center here in North Carolina, and his wife. And there was a later date when Jonathan and Suzy came and their daughter at a later date.
Okay. And it's my understanding that Marcus and Joni felt that Pete was cleared, everything's fine. And there's some discrepancy in the details because I've also read in other places that, Pete wasn't necessarily answering the questions.
Right. Yes, he could not receive a release from Debbie Lenhart because he did not complete the questions. He didn't answer the questions himself. His wife would step in and answer questions. So after the assessment was completed, Debbie Lenhart told me she could not release him because of this interruption with the wife coming in and answer the questions.
And so what was her, how did she propose that would be dealt with then in order to have a more thorough understanding?
Just in case y'all missed that. Just in case y'all missed it. Marcus claimed that Pete got cleared. Pete never got cleared. Marcus claimed that Pete got cleared. Pete never got cleared. Why? Because when Pete and his wife came to North Carolina to meet with Debbie, I can't remember the other woman's last name now, but to meet with the forensic counselor or that actually does this for a living and would be able to testify or not in court. Now, what you're going to hear from Jonathan and Suzy in just a few minutes is you're going to hear that woman, the forensic counselor, whatever they call her, she asked Jonathan and Suzy, if I find out that Pete did it, are you prepared to press charges? And they were both like, absolutely, TF, yes. Abso-freaking-lutely. Hello? So now we see why the cover-up. Now we see why it's private investigator, judge, jury, and executioner. For whatever reason, they feel like, please, can somebody please, I'm going to need somebody to email me admin@heartofinspiration.net, because I don't know nothing about these people. Please email me and tell me why would one be, if it's JB? Why would we be so enamored with JB? I don't want to hear. I want you to send it to me in an email, because I'm going to start doing some investigative work, because I got all time to work. I'm just kidding. I'm going to start doing some investigative work on my end. But why? What is so anyway, so we don't want to upset Pete for whatever reason. We can't upset Pete. Heaven forbid. My own blood son. Lord, forgive me. Anyway, they said they would prosecute. Now, I was happy to hear that, but that's also why we ended up with the cover up. My opinion. Here we go.
She said they either needed to come back and Pete come back at another time himself and go through the full assessment. She is a 30-year veteran in this, so she knew what she was doing. And she said it would need to be another time, come back and by himself, and she would be glad to take him through that assessment again. And
Okay.
or if not, then to carry on and get that in the Dallas area.
Okay. And what happened when she met Pete again?
Pete did not come back. He chose not to come back. He did not want to go through it again, he said. When I told him what Debbie Linhart had said, I said, Pete, you're welcome to come back, and so that we can get this resolved for the sake of the family. And so he said he did not want to come back.
Okay. And so what did this examiner then do for the family? And how was it resolved that Marcus and Joni were telling everyone that it's resolved? I'm not understanding that process.
It's a little bit confusing. I know it does sound that way. Because next, then Susie and Jonathan came to meet with Debbie Linhart to question their little girl. And but after that questioning, then there still could not be any closure to this. So that's when I was told that they had prayed, Marcus had prayed, and felt like it just needed to, be closed. And Joni called me and said to just go ahead and let Debbie Linhart know that this, to go ahead and just close it down.
So go ahead and close it down. But it would seem that she had requested that Pete come, and that would be an appropriate next step. And anybody would really want that for themselves. What I'm not understanding is why, you're innocent. You want to fix this family, so you do everything that you can. And Pete not being willing, it didn't sit well, and so he was not able to get that clearance.
Right, he didn't get the clearance, and I was asked on 2 more occasions for me to give the release, and I said, I'm sorry, I am not licensed. I am not a forensic counselor. I cannot give you a release. And so the last time he asked, it was at the funeral, and I attended Marcus's funeral. And I said, I'm sorry, I cannot. I can't give you a release.
So at the funeral, Pete was asking you if you, again, for the 3rd time, after you had explained you couldn't do it, it had to be done by the professional, who he was unwilling to meet with. He wanted you to give some sort of letter of release. Am I getting that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's right. And I explained I couldn't.
So a couple of things. I'm kind of wondering about the timeline. I know that at one point, Joni was able to meet with the granddaughter. And do you know, was that long before this, or do you have a sense of when that was in the timeline that Joni met with the daughter? Because one of the things that Jonathan and Suzy maintain is that after the daughter met with Joni, she just became silent on this issue.
Yes. I am not clear when that was, because when I was told about the incident of the first incident, and what had happened when the child had been touched in her private area, that was the first time I was told about it from Suzy. And she said that Joni had talked to her but that she had not opened up since then. And that was, timeline, oh my goodness, that was back in 2000, that would be 20 or 21. I think it must have happened in 20. That was probably 21.
Yeah, Marcus died November 2021. He wrote this letter August 2021. So it could have been between 20 and 21. Is that?
There. Yeah. And it's when I first came in and was introduced to everything of this nature with the little girl. And that's when I was told that Joni had talked to the little girl. And and it had been reported and said, from the school board, no, there's not an adult man here in the school. It didn't happen. So.
And one of the things that Suzy and Jonathan have said, and I'm wondering if you ever heard with your ears, was that the child was stating that it was the person allegedly the accused was taller than her dad.
Yes.
You were probably told that. Yes.
Yes, I was told that too. Yes, he was tall. Yes.
Is it fair to say, I like they called you Miss Denise. Miss Denise, is it fair to say that during all of this, there was just a lot of consternation? This might be adding to, the Marcus's concerns about the family. And, in 2021, continuing to say, just please, keep in touch with Denise.
Yeah.
So everything was stressful. A lot was going on. Did Jonathan and Suzy talk to you about the investigation? And when you found out that, or you knew that Pete hadn't gone in, Jonathan and Suzy seemed to be under the assumption that an investigation had indeed been completed because they were told that. Do you remember hearing that?
Apparently, yes, that must have been what they had been told. And so I really can't comment on when they were told that. Any of that, I wasn't involved in any of those conversations. And so, once I got the call from Joni, and Joni said what she did to me, that she and Marcus had prayed and felt like that that everything had been, needed to be settled. It had been settled, but God said that Pete was not guilty. So, and she said, we'll handle it from there. We'll handle it. I said, okay. So
she told you that directly. She told you that
yeah,
directly.
We'll handle it. I said, okay. And so then I wasn't a part of it anymore at that point.
Yeah, you had been told that we're there.
All right. That's now there's about another hour left on Denise. So you guys go over there and watch that as you can. I want you to remember all the similarities that we have going on right now, though, gang. This story has not stayed consistent, and not only has stayed consistent amongst the people that it needs to be consistent with. Even all these years later, Miss Denise is saying the same thing. There's some very key things. I mentioned this, and we're about to watch this now in this other Marcus Rogers here. I have his down in the description as well. We're going to watch his interview with Jonathan and Suzy. It is Jonathan and Suzy Lamb expose everything about Daystar in an exclusive interview. This was done on December. This was what just happened, was just dropped yesterday. So, I've been watching stuff. I've been watching, and I've been watching. I can't even keep up. I cannot even keep up. So I don't know where they are. They're not at home. So, but I want to keep this very consistent with y'all. What you're about to hear is you're going to get some more information from Suzy and Jonathan, really detailing what was going on and what happened. One of the things I noticed is that it seems like every time, I mentioned this before, we start talking about the damn marriage before we start talking about the baby. And it just sickens me. But when you hear the absolute disgusting things that have been said, allegedly, what none of us there, but if I'm going to be kind of like a judge, I'm going to tell you honest to goodness. I got to say honest to Pete, but Pete ain't been honest in this case. These folks are credible. I don't find Joni Lamb credible at all. And so, yes, you heard Denise Boggs correctly. They are at Marcus's funeral, Marcus Lamb's funeral. And he comes up to her and says, hey, can you clear my name? Because he knew his name hadn't been cleared. But they had everybody had lied and told Jonathan and Suzy that his name was cleared. That God told them that Pete didn't do nothing. I'm gonna say once again, I'm not sure which God she listening to, what God it is. And if I hear can I just say one more thing too? This whole concept of rebellion is as a sin as rebellion is unto witchcraft. First of all, y'all gonna stop playing with this witchcraft stuff. Because y'all don't even know what witchcraft really is. Because if you knew, you'd realize that a lot of the things that are said out of people's mouths is casting spells and witchcraft, speaking death over people. Just like you can speak life over people. It's the same thing. But where rebellion, the reason why the relationship, the correlation between rebellion and witchcraft was made had nothing to do with whether or not it's something that God considers as witchcraft. It's because according to those times, you have to remember when the King James Version was put out. When the King James Version was put out, they were burning who they considered to be witches. They were burning them, imprisoning them, whatever. And a lot of those witches were medicine women, women that knew how to use herbs. A lot of those women, if you really go back and research the Salem witch trials, do you know what you're going to find? You're going to find that a lot of those women were charismatic, praying women. They were women that could pray and would pray for miracles. They were women that knew the herbs, they knew the earth and the fullness thereof. So this whole rebellion is as unto the blah, 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 blah. Be very careful, because a lot of the same people that are going to hoop and holler and say that they're anointed and appointed, and you bet not say nothing against them, and you bet not name them, and you bet not this, and you bet not that. We can go to Timothy and find that absolutely we're supposed to bring it to the light. Absolutely we're supposed to drag the elders that is doing dirty in front of the whole congregation. Absolutely we're supposed to shine a light. Y'all might not like this statement, but sunlight truly is the best disinfectant. You put some light on something, and I bet you all the darkness goes away. Put some light on something. Put that sunlight on that, and it'll burn it right out. Sunlight, the light of the sun. S-O-N. Joni, the only one that got some inconsistent testimony going on. Correct. Joni said, Momo, that supposedly P was carrying a younger child, a babe in arms, up the stairs. We're going to hear about this too. All right. We're going to hear about this too. All right, here we go. She ain't talked to Jesus. She ain't talked. She talked to herself. That's who she talked to. That's correct. All right, y'all ready? Marcus, thank you very much for doing this. I love you, daughter of the Most High. And I'm not going to get into a whole discussion today, you guys, about New Age and not New Age. I'm just going to put this in front of you real quick. And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just trying to give you a little bit something to think about. If you think about all of the religions and spiritual practices that have been around for centuries and millennia, it's truly Christianity that's the New Age one. Christianity and the Abrahamic religions are really the new kids on the block, especially Christianity. And there are aspects of Christianity because God is going to make sure, as he stated in Romans, that someone could a man could look to nature and see the evidence of God and his creation and who he is. They would be able to get to know God even by looking and admiring and looking upon nature. Well, so then that tells me that God made sure that no matter where we were and what time we were born in, that we would have a way to get to be reunited with, and or let's just say at one with that which created us. Okay. At one with that which created us. And I think being one that is ordained and I think that if we can get to a point as humanity where we can understand and understand that God makes sure that we can get to have relationship with Creator on our own, might be through different avenues. Right. But anyway. All right, here we go, darlings. Here we are. Let's this again is who's my good friend here that I don't know yet. Marcus Rogers. The link to his video is down in the description box below, and let's start listening. I'm going to go to 8 minutes and 30 seconds because we gotta. I don't want to keep y'all here all night, even though y'all probably be willing to stick with me all night.
Matthew 19:9. Can I pull it up? I mean, it truly, literally, I take the word of God literally. Before, I have to be honest, okay? So, and I've talked about this, Jonathan and I, we loved her, we protected her. I mean, my last night with Marcus at the hospital, I was taking care of him, and at around 3 o'clock in the morning, she said to me, she just looked at me in this dark room. I'm there serving, and she looked at me and she said, "Look what you have done to this family." I remember texting my mom saying, "I can't do this anymore." I told God, "You feel the pain of my heart. Me and my child are ruining this family." And I said, "I know, my God, you're protective of me. You'll get me out of here." That was my last night. I say that not to make anyone feel bad for me, but a spirit has been in operation for a very long time. And even still, the next day, he dies, and we run to serve. We forget everything else to serve. And through that whole process of her dating this man, there's so much we could say, but I don't know if we should. You know, it's like we don't want to dishonor anyone. But they say that she abandoned him. That's his excuse, that his ex-wife abandoned him. The ex-wife is running his business. The ex-wife, from his own lips, we have other recordings where he said she was a faithful, good wife, a great mother for 30-something years, maybe 36. I'm not exactly sure, but over 30 years. Okay. And this part is the sad part. She was begging him to stay and not leave her. So when I hear one woman is begging this man to stay, a wife of his youth, and another woman saying, "No, he's mine," the breaking started. The breaking started to happen where I was like, "God, I've never disobeyed before, but this is not matching up to your word." So then I start talking to pastors, and I look into scripture, and Matthew, right there, Matthew 19:9. "And I tell you this, whoever divorces his wife and marries someone else commits adultery, unless his wife has been unfaithful." His wife was not unfaithful. The written word of God is my conviction. That's it.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you guys about that a little bit later, but since we're there, that is fine. I wanted to know, Doug is his name, I believe, if you guys had talked to his ex-wife, because I try to be very careful.
Now, I'm just playing that little section. First of all, I just wanted you to hear the vile thing that reportedly, what is her name? Joni says to Suzy over a dying Marcus Lamb, over her dying husband. Her husband that is taking on his last breaths on this earth. She tells Suzy, "Look what you've done to this family." Look what you've done to this family. Daughter, I believe that, yes. I mean, I've been around for a while. I don't know how old or young you are, my dear, but I've been hearing, I'm 56 years old. I've been hearing since I was probably 7, that I can remember, 6 or 7 years old, that God was leading us away from mega churches, because there were still big churches back then, and that leading us into this house church situation and true church in a narrow path. I think where we're being led is to a actual relationship, an actual gnosis, an actual empowerment, an actual walking in power and in truth and in light and in life. What you have been given up until now has been the watered down, disempowered version of the instruction booklet for how to unlock who you truly are and have true dominion. Now I'm going to leave that alone right then and there. So anyway, I wanted to hear this vileness that was going on. What a disgusting human being, if that's truly what was said. But that's why I said earlier, y'all remember what I said earlier? Joni had been cheated on. She stayed. That was her business. That was her choice. But because she stayed, I believe she divorced that man in her heart a long time ago. A long time ago, baby. A long time ago. And because she divorced that man in her heart a long time ago, she didn't feel no never mind about getting married, nor did she really care because listen, her husband had got taken away by other women anyway. Now, I can't say this for sure. This is just my feeling that she had already had her husband stolen many a time by many a woman. She didn't feel no remorse about stealing that man from somebody else. She didn't feel not one bit, not one problem at all by saying, I want that one. Just my own business. To be so connected to the divine creator that nobody can tell you nothing. Yes. But we can always learn something. Ooh, child. Andrea preaching tonight. Y'all better look in that chat. So I wanted to go over that part. Now we're going to move forward. Now we're going to talk about all the. I don't care about I don't care about the marriage. Her and that man got to deal with. That's what they got to. Everybody's got to work their own salvation out with fear and trembling. We're going to go at about 36-ish or so. We're going to pick it up where we need to. Let me go to 33.
Going to be the heir.
Mhm.
Jonathan and I are almost like childlike. We don't think about these things, don't care. We're raising our little children. But the competition, and I would always get angry. Well, I wasn't going to get into this because God is my defender.
Mhm.
But for anyone who knows the inner circle, I came in, right? I came from a totally different family. In my family, there's no passive aggressive. We say everything and then we get over it. I enter this family. Everything's okay, but there's a lot of, it's hard for me because I'm more vocal.
Mhm.
And for years, and God knows all of this. I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus, but God knows there was a lot of frustration because of the competition of Jonathan being a threat because he's going to be the heir.
Mhm.
Jonathan and I are almost like childlike. We don't think about these things, don't care. We're raising our little children.
This is why you're going to hear, because Jonathan's going to be the heir.
Speak for yourself. You don't have to take it. And he would just be quiet and say, God will defend me. But then at home, I'd have a very broken husband. And so it was years of like, God, let someone fight for him because the root was not being dealt with. There was not correction from the top saying, hey, this is your brother's position. Stop fighting for it.
Mhm.
And it was constantly the competition of like, I was born the wrong sex. That's why I didn't get, if I was a man, I would get it. And I really, that is Jezebel. And other people saw it, family members suffered with it, but it was not dealt with. And because of that, there was a lot of tension. It was really hard in our marriage. And I would beg Joni many times. Rebecca and I both begged her at different times. We just want to leave Daystar. We just want to go. Let me go. And she was like, no, God has a plan. You're going to stay. This were, and there was definitely the image of portraying a perfect image of a family to people because it inspires people, sure, but it's also real. So all that to say that these roots have been there a very long time. And Joni knows more than anything else. I don't care how deceived a person may be. She knows when she said those words about Jonathan, that was the farthest thing from the truth. He has never defended himself.
Right.
She would say it all the time. Jonathan's the one who never asked me for anything. When Marcus died, she told him to take Marcus's office, the president's seat. And he said, no, Mom, I won't take that office until God puts me in that office. This is who he is. And so when she stood there and said that, we couldn't even give a response because it's so far. It's like,
I can discern that about you for sure.
And it was clearly laid out by my father that I would be the future president after my mother, after she either passed or retired. And so again, if I just went along with the charade, if we put our personal convictions aside and we just welcomed in the new marriage, there would have been no problem as far as
you would have just waited your time.
I would have
People
been
told
there.
us to do
I would have
that.
been in that position at the right time. I mean, to her whenever she retired or whatnot, but it would have happened.
Right.
But the thing is, it only became a problem whenever we said, "Hey, Mom, we can't."
She's trying to manipulate it, and I can tell by
now
your
she's trying
character.
to make it look like I was gonna.
You're mad because she
usurp her
took it. Like
position, or-
you should have got it right away.
Or I was never supposed to have the position, and I was angry about that.
You feel
We are 40 minutes into this interview. We are 40 minutes, 35 minutes and 39 seconds into this interview, and we still haven't started talking about the baby. We're still finding out that the main crux of this thing, again, I just have to show that to you because that's how twisted they have these two people's minds. Ignore what happened over here. It'll be fine. God will heal it. How many of y'all have ever heard, well, you know what? I know this horrible traumatic thing happened to you, but God will heal all wounds. God, he is a healing balm in Gilead. Now I know some of y'all know that one. Jehovah Rapha. Call upon Archangel Raphael for healing. Well, maybe some of y'all don't call upon the angels, but I used to. I do. Hmm? That's the church's response to trauma. That's the church's response to SA, to child SA, to CM. That's the church's response to DV. That's the church's response. Is God, just give it over to the Lord. No real dealing with your issues. No real dealing with the pain. No real dealing with the energy and the trauma that is reverberating through every cell in your being. Just give it over to God. And if you can't figure out how to do that, then you're really not a Christian. But don't speak on my adulterous marital situation where I stole somebody else's husband. All right, cool. So we still all these minutes into here, and I think we're about to get to the part. Yeah, we're about to get to the part where we're going to finally start talking about how they finally started really kind of turning the page. Here we go.
Feel like, your father, passing kind of like that, that order. God has a hierarchy in the family. So now that he's out of the position, I've seen this, and I'm not a misogynist or nothing like that, but there's
I can't stand to hear this.
We haven't even brought up. So there's a whole other piece of the story.
Okay.
With, addressing what happened with my daughter. So whenever things came to a head, the day that I confronted Pete after I found him in the same room as my daughter when she was changing, and then we had led to a family meeting. That caused so much consternation with my father and mother that it led to them basically changing the plan.
Wow. Yeah, let's talk about it.
They did that. I'm gonna be raw.
Yeah.
I hate when the presidency Daystar stuff is mixed with my child. This is my jewel. This is my heart. I would die for her, and I don't like the two subjects mixed. It's just it came about, erupted to the world at the same time.
Yeah.
But one thing has. What God has for you, no one can steal, as long as you obey God. So I don't care to even defend that the plan changed. They can do anything. She told me, I convinced Marcus, I'm going to protect the family. And I said, okay, because what God has for me, no one can take if I obey God. My child, that is my life. I will have justice from that. And I believe that one of the reasons everything is being toppled over is because God cares about my child's voice. Because as time passes, people might forget when her body went limp when he entered the room, but God doesn't forget. And that's my father. So sorry.
No, it's
the baby's body went limp when the man came into the room. She would freeze up whenever she'd be around this person. She didn't even want her own father touching her for a while. That's what was going on to this baby. That's what's going on with this child. I can't. Here we go.
it's so I got it lined up. I wanted to talk about that as well. We talked about it earlier. The Bible says God takes it serious. A millstone be tied around your neck, you throw in the sea, then you offend one of these little ones. So all of the stuff that we talked about to the side, man, and I have chills right now, that matters to God. That matters to God. And if you are a leader to whom much is given, much is required. There's a reason when God told Moses, speak to the rock, and he struck the rock out of emotions. God said, Moses, you're done. And so for them to be in a position of power and influence, you're supposed to be a protector. You're supposed to do this. When you brought it to them and they did this internal investigation, how did you feel about that? I'm glad you guys clarified in the last video. You did originally go to the police. Matter of fact, just run through that story just for people who need clarity.
Yeah. So it was November of 2020 when.
So my daughter told me November 2020, and so we went to the police. but she had said it was something that I kind of said, was it at the school? Because I couldn't imagine Daystar and it's not home. And she kind of went along with it. I've realized from counselors now, this is what kids do. They want to please you with their answers. So I was like, is it a boy? Is it a girl? A boy. And she said taller than daddy. So I was like, oh my gosh, taller than dad. That's a man.
Yeah.
That's why the school, the police did an investigation on the school, and there was no male employees, so they had to shut down the case, which is okay. That's why the case was called unfounded. And my heart was broken, but I knew that this is real with my child, and God won't let it sit. Time passes. My sister-in-law's telling me things about what she's witnessing.
With Pete at Daystar.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different things. Pete wants them for sleepover. My kids.
Okay, wait. I got to back up because she danced around this. We read this in I want to say it was that first night, guys. So what night was that we went over this, gang? Let me go back to the studio. It was the live that I did on December the 2nd. I did a live. Nope. December the 1st. The live I did December the 1st was when I read the article from the Royce report. And if you might recall, the article from the Royce report stated that Rebecca, so that would be RW, Rebecca and JW had told Suzy about some weird things that were happening at Daystar. And they were kind of like, hey, you might not want to bring your baby around. So that is her sister-in-law. Okay? They have made their sign NDAs. At some point, we'll listen to the tapes. But so on December the 1st, I read the Royce report. December the 2nd, we looked at Jonathan and Suzy's rebuttal, as well as Joni's first rebuttal. And then earlier today, because there's been so much flying around, we went over kind of the first part of Joni's further rebuttal, started with Denise, and then now we're finishing up. Okay? All right. She's inching away from her husband. I don't think I've seen them sit relatively close. This, I'm sure, is not easy for them as a couple. The more I see Jonathan, the stronger I see him get. When I first saw him on that first, so when I reviewed their first response video, and I reviewed it, I think it came out on December the 2nd. I'm not sure. He was very shut down, very within, not very strong, not very outspoken. But seeing him here and seeing him on some other interviews, he's getting better. He's getting stronger. The further he's getting away from his mother, and the further and the more support that people like us are giving them, he's getting stronger. And I think she's felt like she's been in this so long by herself. I hope you guys aren't hearing that tapping sound from I wonder if you're hearing it from my computer. Interesting. It might be from my computer. I'll have to check some things out, Momo Shark. That's weird. Let me see something. Hold on, gang. Do you still hear the tapping sound now? Guys, you hear the tapping sound now? My mic isn't overly crazy. Yes. All right. Then I'm going to have to check my board. No, it's not a background music thing. I wish. I'm going to have to check my board. Yeah. Well, you might be right. What about now? How about now? Is it any better? I kind of moved the cord a little bit. Is it any better, gang? Well, I pride myself on good audio, so I got to do something about it. I've had it for a few days. Yes, it's better. It's still there. Okay. We might try a different mic wire first, and then we'll go from there. It's not awful, it's still faint. I'm honestly thinking it's either something in my board or it's something in the computer itself because it's coming through the computer. So it might be there. I you know how I can find out? Hold on. I won't worry, but I just want to test one thing if you guys can indulge me really quick. There is a tapping going on because I can see it. Oh, I can't change it now. That's so weird. All right. Well, I'll test it out. I'm gonna test it out with a different microphone. It's gone. Can still okay. Some people can hear it. That's my test to see if you can talk to other spirits. All right, hang on. All right, here we go, guys. I done lost people. People like, ladies, shut up. Okay, here we go. Let's keep going.
I'm not allowed to say no
He
to
shows up to her house when we're not home with just the names
play
there.
with.
Is there a legal reason why we keep calling him Pete or protecting Pete? Or
because
Yeah,
he's
because you can't, since he hasn't been charged with a crime.
okay,
Just for legal reasons.
got it.
the reason he's not charged with a crime is because her memory has faded. When
Mhm.
she does remember and has an outcry,
Yeah,
he would be arrested.
she has to have an outcry to name Pete.
Right, got
Which
it.
is why we took her through counseling to get that. But it started to affect her so badly that the counselor said her health is more important than justice. So we back.
Okay. I was trying to get to that point at 40 minutes 51 seconds. I listen. Everybody is allowed to do whatever they want to with their own child. I was horrified when I heard that. I was horrified when I heard that. If this girl's trauma, when we're trying to get to it, is coming up and bubbling up physically to the surface where she's breaking out in eczema and things like that, that's not when we stop. Trust and believe her memory ain't fading. She remembers. That's when we go deeper. So I don't know who that is, but if they hear anything, beloveds, listen to me. It doesn't get better when you don't talk about it. That which cannot be spoken, Mother Iyanla, cannot be healed. You allow her to keep stuffing this down and stuffing this down and stuffing this down. All that's going to happen is, yes, some memory will fade, but she's going to get to a point where she stuffs it down so much she won't be able to release it. And then what'll happen is it'll heal over. And how it's going to heal over, it's going to heal over with a protective covering, aka narcissism. You see what they, yes, see, Momo, everybody gets it. Everybody gets it. Everybody gets it. When you stuff it down like that, what happens to that trapped trauma is it becomes what I call dense light, scar tissue. I like that idea. I like that too. I call it dense light. It's unusable. It's unmovable. It blocks. It doesn't allow you to flow. It's a block. And then it creates other blocks all the way through your system. And then it creates narcissism. Why does it create narcissism? Or why can it create mental health issues? Because she's going to create a persona that can protect her, where she can disassociate with the world. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's what happens. It could be addiction, codependency, isolation, attracting more pain. Absolutely. Or you become the predator. Because it's not opposites that attract, It's like attracts like. It is the opposite side of the same coin. So unless you want her to go through a life filled with this type of trauma repeatedly happening to her, or you want her to traumatize someone else, my suggestion, if anybody can get anything to Jonathan and Susie, y'all need to go in and dig. If you maybe need to do hypnotherapy, that's not demonic, y'all. You'll be okay. But or you need to see one of us who are energetic healers, but we need to get to it. Multiple personalities could happen as well. Absolutely. Yes, for protection. Right. It's so destructive. So I was trying to get here. Here we go. I'm gonna get off my soapbox, y'all. I swear to God, I am. Here we go.
Backed off.
Right.
So
She's very young, right, when this is happening.
she was 5. Yeah.
She was 4 when she first told you.
Yeah,
Or just turned 5.
Just turned 5.
Wow.
So as time passes,
So it probably happened when she was
because
4.
after that vacation, we cut him off from our house. As soon as you start feeling safe, the brain starts to lock it off and put it away. So since we had boundaries, but
That's not true either. As soon as you start to feel safe, the brain can unlock it. So I don't know who told her that lie. I don't know who told her that lie. But please, if y'all know Jonathan and Susie at all, if y'all can get any information to them, please tell them that's a lie. Because when I've worked with narcissists that have experienced childhood SA or CM as children, especially as very young children, 4 or 5 years old. I was married to a man that this happened to, that he was getting harmed all the way up until he was 7 or 8. Became a horrific narcissist, somatic, sex addict, the whole 9 yards. Anyway, it wasn't until he began to feel safe with me that we were finally able to dig deep into his soul, and I was finally able to see that little boy that had been harmed. And I was finally able to talk to the little boy that had been harmed. You know what I'm saying? I was able to get to that inner child that was so severely wounded. He was in his mid 60s by this point. This is years and years and years, right? So that's a lie. That's a damn lie. Okay, sorry. Here we go.
I will say this. If you look at text messages, pictures, we never made Pete and his wife, this is probably not a good thing on our part, we never made them feel bad, because when Marcus told us he's been cleared and didn't let us talk to the investigators, we didn't make them feel bad. We didn't act like you're untouchables. We showed them the love of Christ. We did everything to do right before God. And now that's being turned on us, like as if y'all are
I
bad
get that.
parents.
So, I wanted to ask you this just so the people can hear it. I heard you explain it before. As a man, obviously, I heard the story. You say, your wife called you to the room, you went in there, and then his behavior, from what you say, screams guilty.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm like, you definitely, the way you explained it. So some people are going to say, why you didn't beat Pete up right there on the spot. Is it because family members, so the confusion is hitting? You know what I'm saying? I could just, as a Christian, it's a lot of different reasons.
For sure. Let me recap that. So Susie tells our kids to go and change into their swimsuits.
Just my daughter.
And right when you did that, how did you see Pete's?
So she goes up the stairs.
What did his eyes look like?
So she's like, Mommy, I want to go swimming. I said, okay, go up. Her room is on the 3rd floor. Go up the stairs. Go put on your swimsuit. So she turns and go up. Pete is in the kitchen. I had told the journalist this part, but we didn't make it public because we want to leave children out of the story. There was another child, that he was holding his kid in his arms. I'm not going to get into that, but it's almost like it was a non-factor. It was just like the eyes turned, like dilated. I don't even know. Something took over. And this man goes, and started following her. And I'm telling you, I move. But in that moment, they will not believe
So
you.
you're in the
Get
kitchen.
Jonathan.
I'm in our room brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
And you feel.
I was like, Jonathan. I was like, he followed her.
She comes and lets me know, hey, I just saw our daughter. And I just felt a quickening in my spirit. I was brushing my teeth and I just thought.
He just said his name. I missed that.
Oh, she's like, Mommy, I want to go swimming. I said, okay, go up. Her room is on the 3rd floor. Go up the stairs. Go put on your swimsuit. So she turns and go up. Pete is in the kitchen. I had told the journalist this part, but we didn't make it public because we want to leave children out of the story. There was another child, he was holding his kid in his arms. I'm not going to get into that, but it's almost like it was a non-factor. It was just like the eyes turned, like dilated. I don't even know. Something took over, and this man goes, and started following her. And I'm telling you, I move, but
Right.
in that moment, they will not believe
And so
you.
you're in the
Get
kitchen.
Jonathan.
I'm in our room brushing my teeth,
Yeah.
and you feel
I was just like, Jonathan. I was like, he followed her.
she comes and lets me know, hey, I just saw our daughter.
Damn it. I was trying. They beeped it out. Y'all don't get me to taking audio apart. I swear to God. He said his name. That's why they beeped it. They beeped it and they covered his mouth. I'm gonna take that audio apart. I'll let y'all know what happens if I get it, baby. But I tell you what, I'm gonna put it behind a paywall. I ain't gonna be able to put this out in the public. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna work on it tomorrow. I swear to you, I'm gonna work on it tomorrow. Oh, here we go.
And I just felt a quickening in my spirit. I was brushing my teeth, and I just stopped mid brush, throw my toothbrush down, and I run. I was on the first floor, and I had to go up 2 flights of stairs to where they were changing on the 3rd floor. I get up there, and to my horror, there's my daughter. She's naked, and then Pete's in the room as well. And the only reason I didn't put hands on Pete is because he was in the room, but he wasn't like in the act. His hands weren't on my daughter. But I was just horrified that he was there while she was completely naked. And so first thing I do, I'm like, what are you doing?
Right, right.
I'm just shouting him down, and he immediately just starts to be like, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. He said, I'm so sorry. I kid you not, 50 times.
Guilty
And
behavior.
it just felt like I caught him red-handed and doing something he knew he shouldn't have been doing. And so that led to the confrontation with my parents.
Well, so we run downstairs because remember, adult-child dynamic. You don't make decisions. We can't call the cops. You come down to us.
Mhm.
We run down
That's
there.
why some people say it's a cult.
Oh,
seems like
it
a cult,
is.
Yeah.
We run down there. Not even 1 second. And
My
Marcus,
dad sits down next to Pete.
I know. Before that, I declare him not guilty.
Yeah.
I stood there. My blood ran cold. I was like,
Yeah.
this is not
My
happening.
dad said, I've been falsely accused, and I declare him to be.
And so he sits by Pete. We're on the side of the room, and for 40 minutes we get scolded. We are agents of the devil trying to destroy Daystar. Daystar, protect Daystar.
Did
Daystar.
his energy change when he felt like, oh, your father's kind of backing him up? Because did he go from like, oh, I'm sorry, to like, oh yeah, it was nothing?
I mean, it felt like he was kind of more just expressionless, kind of cold.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say he didn't say one word to defend himself. I would
He
say he was still scared. I think he was scared for a long time.
Yeah.
To be honest.
But my dad immediately had his back, and what was the statement that he said?
I declare him.
Right, and then because what, like?
Because he had been falsely accused, so we're doing that. We're destroying Daystar. And what was really sad was Joni was beside me, and for all that time, I was her girl. I thought this was the time she was going to be like a lioness beside me. And I think that was the first opening of my eyes where she was just like cold, and she was just like mad at me, and I didn't know what to do with that. And Rebecca was a sister to me. That's Jonathan's youngest sister. Her and husband JW. They, without them, I would have collapsed. I feel like I would have had maybe. I don't know what I would have done, but they held us. We sat on the beach together. We cried, prayed, and then when this investigation, I was escalating a little bit, so they found this counselor Denise to get us under control. But Denise is amazing because God is so good. Denise brought in Debbie, another woman who works with the North Carolina Police Department.
She's a forensic counselor.
Okay.
So she's good at being able to interview people and pick up on all the signs of somebody who has potential.
She evaluates.
Yes, sir.
Well, Marcus and Joni didn't know that was going to happen.
Right.
That was the bad thing that Denise did, apparently, but the best thing. So Debbie tells us pretty straightforward. She works with the police. She said, she asked Jonathan, "Are you want to?"
She's like, well, it looks like Pete is.
Well, no, she said, "I'm going to interview him, but if I do, if I find him guilty, will you prosecute?
Will you prosecute?
Or will you protect Daystar?"
Yeah. And we both said we will prosecute.
Prosecute.
Okay.
That information somehow got back to Marcus. And that's why Marcus wrote that email. You're not judge, jury, prosecution. He says all those things because we said we would prosecute. So we were really ready for like level 100 of whatever this goes. It's not like we just quietly went back into nothingness. But then when we were told that this woman we trust has cleared him, I will take fault there, because even though we tried calling her, it was all cut off. We couldn't talk to her. And I really should have pushed more, but in my mind believed I had to submit and trust God.
Yeah,
Wait.
and part of being in that cult-like environment. So my dad called my brother-in-law into his office, and he told me that Pete had been cleared by this forensic counselor, and so therefore he was innocent. And if you continue to believe that he is a, you know what, you need to get another job, basically. And he thought you need to submit and move forward. And so we did that. I mean, as best as we could. I still had, kind of an uneasiness in my spirit, but the way I had been conditioned throughout my whole life just to trust everything that my father had said. And he was a great man of God, but the one weakness I would say he had is that he sacrificed the well-being of my daughter for he thought was a greater good of protecting the billion-dollar empire.
Do you think it would have been? It probably obviously would have been different on your father and your mother's behalf if it was just some stranger, right? It's that dynamic of it being.
Since it would have caused a break in the family and it would have destroyed the perfect image. They thought it's better just to give him the benefit of the doubt and not look at any type of investigation and move forward. And of course, me and Susie, so we people are like, how could you move forward after that? Why didn't you leave?
Right, because Pete was still coming around or like
yeah, well,
working.
we had a very strict boundary.
Okay.
Ever since then, Pete has not stepped foot into our house.
And he stayed away from, like, he was scared. He stayed away from our child.
But we didn't know that my father had lied to me about Pete being cleared until after it was November 18th, 2023. That's when we found out.
2023, okay.
So that was well after we had been.
Could I add one thing that
Yep.
I think is so important? So as soon as that event happened, we find this man in that room. They're trying to play it off like he was just in the room looking out the window. There was a road. There was nothing to look at. He followed our child. But this is the cult thing that kicks in, okay? Because immediately he loves her. He wants to hang out with the kids. And so Jonathan, I really truly believed. It's going to make us sound dumb, but the truth is, we believed them when they said, "You couldn't even tell the cops this. No one would do anything. What are you going to do?" Then and they're still saying that it's a nothing. It's a nothing. Stop making nothing something. Now, when this article came out, I genuinely thought the world would say the same thing. Like, "Oh, y'all are just making something out of nothing." But when the world erupted in anger for our child, like, that is no. I was honestly in shock, and reality set in. Like, okay, this is the big deal that we initially thought it was, but we were programmed and like beaten down to think there's nothing to tell the police.
Well, the level of, and honestly, like I told you, man of God, when I first heard it, you're not gonna just bring your kid into that.
No.
It would be. I'm gonna just be real. It would be easy to say maybe Pete, like if it was gonna be a smear thing, Pete went and approached my wife.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we can make up some kind of story there. But for someone to just put their kid there, and so I said, and obviously, even with the Holy Spirit here as our witness, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I can discern that it's true.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it makes me just question, this guy Pete, he's still coming around. Like, what kind of, character do you have? Like, if you know this is going on, this has happened, and you're still just showing up, it makes me really question, the discernment. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I went to these things with where they had Trump, and I believe Daystar was,
Daystar was broadcasting the
yeah.
event.
And so I met a lot of different people like going through those lines. And for me, the Holy Spirit will give you these red flags. And I told you guys this before. Like if I'm talking to somebody, they can't look me in the eyes, and they're real, fidgety, and like it lets me know there's some kind of, secret stuff going on.
Okay. All right. That now we go into some other stuff. I'm gonna pick it up a little bit more later. We've been on almost 2 hours. I really appreciate you all. Did you hear what was said though? The world won't believe you. His own father immediately was like, "I cleared him. Don't worry about it." Immediately. You don't really even know what the heck has just happened, but you do know. You must know something. This is why I'm putting this all together. I want you to follow me. I'm gonna connect these dots, and then we're gonna talk about a little bit about where we're gonna go from here. I am gonna take that audio apart though. I will be taking that audio apart. I'm gonna see what I can get. November of 2020, the daughter tells her mother what's occurred. Prior to that, there was a reported incident where daughter walks in on Pete while Pete is going to the bathroom, and full frontal nudity is seen by the daughter. Nobody really makes a big thing about that. Then according to those things happen. Then according to the article, something else happened in between then and November 2020, where the children went over and spent the night at the Pete's house. Uncle Pete's house, and allegedly. And then sometime then after that, daughter starts acting kind of weird, stiffens up, doesn't want daddy to even touch her, doesn't want any men touching her. She's got problems now. Okay. Now, Sandy, can you not put that like whole word, guys, in the chat? I don't want they will flag. So I'm going to remove that comment. Or Sarisa, can you remove that comment? And Sandy, it's not because I don't agree with you, but if we could just use other words for that, please, on YouTube, so that they don't flag this and demonetize it and all that kind of stuff, okay? It's not a you thing. It's a YouTube censorship situation, okay? So I don't want anybody to get offended whatsoever. It's a YouTube situation, and I just don't want my channel to get hit. I'm going to go in and... Okay, thank you very much, Teresa. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate it. Just shorten the word up. You know what I'm saying? Just do it. Thank you very much, darling. Anyway, so these things happen. November of 2020, she tells her mother. They find out that it didn't happen at the school. Granddaughter goes in to talk to grandma because grandma's like, hey, let me talk to my grandbaby. I'd be the same way. Ain't no shame in that. And once that happens, now granddaughter stops speaking to anybody. Now all of a sudden it's under lock and key. The mind control, absolutely. Whatever Joni said to that girl, she stopped talking. That could be why they call him Pete. That could be. I didn't think about that, Andrea. Thank you, Jace, by the way. So, put it all together. Then, at some point during this time after November 2020 as well, Rebecca tells Susie, you might want to watch. No, we can't be, things that she's seen. So the family already knew. Remember, things had been going on for months. Denise got brought in to this whole situation after November of 2020. But there were issues for years. But this really was at the height now in November of 2020. So for Marcus and Joni Lamb to just basically be like, oh, he didn't do nothing. You mother truckers knew he had already done something. This is just my opinion. Because why would you come to his aid at first? Like, why would that be the first? Why would not the first thing you're doing would be to check on your grandchild? You disgusting human beings. I'm going to have to stop. I think that's disgusting. Cover up. Absolutely. How destructive have your Gma hush you in the name of whatever they were. They worship money. They worship their image. They don't want the empire to crumble. That's more important. Remember, I've said this numerous times. Don't sacrifice your children or your grandchildren on the altar of the church. At any rate, now we hear the lie was perpetuated immediately. The cover-up started instantaneously. Houston, we got some problems. Where do we go from here? Well, I was listening to the Roy's report and someone else that was talking about this doctrine of submission. I think there's some more stuff that more stuff is floating around out here. I'm going to continue to dig. I'm going to continue to uncover what I can, read some more of the Roy's reports because she's got quite a bit out here. Watch some more of her videos and then come on and bring it to you. But I also, you all, want to encourage you that we're going to start what I am calling Heal the Hurt 2025. Heal the Hurt 2025. That is going to focus on a number of things, but because I have seen so much happen in Christianity specifically, I'm not picking on Christianity, but I've seen too much stuff happen in the church, and there's been too many people hurt in so many different ways. We're going to be starting a podcast where I'll be helping people heal their hurt. Now, yes, I'm a minister, but yes, as you can see from everything behind me, I'm also a spiritualist. I don't only go by only, right? Christianity. But I don't do anything demonic. Amen. I don't do anything demonic. Everything I do is of light. So we're going to start doing some podcasts where I would love to, if you're willing, I can keep you anonymous. We can blur out your face and we can AI change your voice. But we can begin to discuss what has occurred to you, what's happened to you, and then let's heal the wounds. I don't know what WC idols are, but okay, let's heal the wounds. So, can Sarisa, can you put the, or Jace, can one of you guys put my email in the chat? My email for on the other platform is admin@heartofinspiration.net, ADMIN @heartofinspiration.net. And if you have stories, a story that you would like to tell, just type in Heal the Hurt 2025. Heal the Hurt 2025 in the subject line of your email. If you would like to go through this healing process and tell your story, and again, we will keep you anonymous, then I would love to work with you to do that. And also, Jace and I have been talking about this. So I'm going to out you right now here. Jace, I'm going to go around the country, and we are going to be doing Heal the Hurt weekends. Heal the Hurt 2025 weekends. It'll feel a bit like a church service because, I got to come home. But we're going to work on healing the hurt all together in one of the unique ways that I know how. All right? So we're going to go all around the country, and we're going to do that as well. You're not far, Andrea, at all. And if there are I'm guessing that most of the places we're going to need to go are Unitarian churches. I see you, Sandy. I will see what I can do to get that information where it needs to go. But again, we cannot type in, guys, we can't type in like the full words like A, B, the whole thing. We can't type those things in and into the chat. All right. I'm excited as well. All right. Thank you, guys. We've been together for almost 2 hours. We've been together a total of about 3.5 hours today. I have just thoroughly enjoyed it. I will continue to figure out what the next steps are. So please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thank you for all the likes. Leave a like on your way out too. And check the community page because I'm going to put up some polls and I want you guys to tell me where we want to go. Okay, where we want to go. Okay, next up. But we're going to stay on Daystar's neck. Oh, I'm staying on Daystar's neck. Fully. They ain't seen the last of me at all. Thank you guys so much. Please give me a like, a follow, a subscribe wherever we are. And as always, peace, love, blessings, and joy be unto you today, tomorrow, and for all eternity. I love you guys so much. Namaste. Bye, gang.